I was able to work for several years in a restaurant as a cook. And one of the things that I learned working in that restaurant is just how important it is to keep everything clean. One of the ways that we would do that is we would have these disposable gloves that you would wear when you're preparing a particular dish. And then when you got done, you would take them off and you'd wash your hands, and then you'd put on new gloves for the next dish that you were working on. That way you wouldn't cross-contaminate, and everything that you worked on, you had a fresh pair of gloves. And so I think that's actually a pretty good metaphor for what Paul is trying to tell us this month in our Word of Life. Paul tells us in this letter to the Corinthians that in all things put on love. So when I was working in that restaurant, before I would start putting my hands in the food, I would have to stop and say, wait a minute, am I wearing gloves? And for Paul, he's saying, hey, before you do anything, stop and ask, am I wearing love? Have I put on love? Am I doing this thing in love? So for example, some of you may be students, and that requires you to study. Now, you can just study because you have to, but Paul's saying that in all things, put on love. So before you start to study and you open your books, to say, wait a minute, am I wearing love? Am I reading this book? Am I working on this paper because I love God and I want to put love into what I'm doing? Those of you who are in the workforce, before you step into your office or into your place of work, or you log on if you're working at home, to stop for a moment and to look at your heart and to say, am I wearing love? Am I starting this day? Am I doing this project? Am I going into this meeting with the posture of love? Because I want to love God and I want to love the people around me. Maybe I have a day off and I'm going to go for a walk or to a restaurant or to a museum. All those things, even in my leisure, I can stop and say, wait a minute, first, am I wearing love? Am I taking this time off from a place of love because I want to love God and I want to love others? And part of love is leisure so that I can be filled up, so that I can then keep giving myself to others in love. Am I wearing love? The other part of this, though, is, when I was cooking, I couldn't wear the same pair of gloves the whole day long because that would defeat the purpose. Everything would get dirty. I needed a new pair of gloves for each new thing I made. And I think that's good for us to remember that when I wake up in the morning, I can't rely on the love that I had yesterday. No, I need new love for today. If I step out of a meeting and now I'm taking a phone call, I can't rely on the love that I had in that meeting. I need new love for this phone call. If I'm done with work and now I'm going to pick up my kids, I can't rely on the love that I had on work. I have to put on new love as I greet my kids. See, there's this fresh start that needs to happen in our hearts. Each new encounter, each new day, each new person that we meet, to keep putting on love, not relying on old love, because God's love is always new. Last point. We know from Scripture that God is love. And so when St. Paul tells us that in all things put on love, he's saying in all things you should put on God. You should be immersed in God's very life. And this is the great gift of always wearing love. That whether at school, at work, at home, on the weekend, or on Monday, I can be immersed in the life of God if I'm wearing love. So, this month, as you go day to day with all the many things that are a part of your life, before you do any of them, ask yourself, wait a minute, am I wearing love? Because it's only love that puts us into the heart of God. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to keep up with other great content to help you live your life of unity with God and with one another, make sure you subscribe to Focolare Media so that you can continue to live your divine adventure.